Welcome to another episode of the Take Your Shot podcast. Of course, as always, I'm your wonderful host, Shashway Gitman. And this week, I got my boy Max from the ATL. Welcome to the show, Max.
Yep. Thanks for having me, Josh. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. This final episode before the playoffs, 1 week before the playoffs, I can't believe it. Like, it's gone by so fast, right?
Yeah, I mean, feels like just yesterday the season started back in October, but just flew by.
And in this episode, we're going to talk about, before we hit the playoff, the biggest surprises of the season and the biggest disappointments. And we are going to reflect on all of that, as I said, before we get to the playoffs. But first, before we do that, I forgot to do last week our new segment, Lights Out, where we talk about eliminated teams. So we've got two teams for you today. So first, let's start with the Houston Rockets. The Rockets have been officially eliminated. Their season this year has pretty much been up and down. They've had some pretty big lows. They've had some highs, like that 11-game winning streak this season. So how would you rate the Rockets season, Max?
Honestly, I would give it a 9 because, I mean, I don't think they were expecting. Maybe they could have snuck into the play-in. I mean, but with how competitive the West was, I don't see how they can be disappointed with this year. Finished on a good note, so that's where I have them at.
And also, Alfred Şengün was injured at the end of the season, which could have been a potential big part in what could have been an opportunity to pass the Warriors, because they were only the game behind before they started losing. They lost to Dallas, then Miami, and then it just went downhill from there. After that, I thought they were going to be in the play-in because I thought Udoka was going to be that game changer for the Rockets, and they were. He improved the defense a little bit. Their defense was a little bit better, but I expected a little more out of Jalen Green. I know he showed the flashes at the end of the season a little bit, but he's pretty much been inconsistent. He was in trade rumors for Mikal Bridges, but I definitely know the Rockets, what they should probably do is go star hunt. You think so?
I mean, honestly, they should. What position are you thinking they should get?
I think they probably need a 3-and-D forward. Like, I know Dylan Brooks is there, but I mean, if you got the lineup of Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green, maybe a power forward. You can put Brooks off the bench, and you've got Amin Thompson can start, and then you get that power forward, and then with Şengün at the 5. I think if they can get that, and remember, they control Brooklyn's draft picks, so it's not like they got to trade their own draft. They've got the picks. They've got the assets to trade as well.
I mean, what are some options in free agency, too, for them?
Trying to think. Honestly, last year I thought Draymond Green would have been a good fit for them.
Yeah, but I think Clay's available this year. Not that I don't know.
Clay's available this year. I don't know if he'll be better on a good team, like on a different team. Depending on
I think Clay's obviously his prime is over, and he played all right this year. I think he averaged like 17, I think, maybe 18.
Yeah.
And many said he didn't even play great. I mean, an 18 from a good shooter.
I mean, maybe the Rockets make a splash on Paul George. We don't know what's going on there. He didn't extend yet, so maybe they could take a splash on him. There aren't really many power forwards that stand out in free agency. I mean, there's the Kelly Olynyk's of the world. I mean, there's just not a lot of options. Honestly,
I think they keep it. I think they keep it where they are. And what do they have? They're gonna have like the 9 or something. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah, well, that's a lottery, but they'll probably have like projected a top. They may not have their draft pick. Actually, they don't have their draft pick. That is with Oklahoma City because of.
I thought they got it. I thought they had one from.
It's because of the Chris Paul Westbrook trade from a while back. So I don't think they have control of their draft this year, but they do have the Nets pick, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that puts them back pretty much the same spot.
Yeah, because
they're pretty much the same record. And honestly, the 3-and-D forward, probably what the Rockets need. They did have a good season with Udoka, a lot better than the past 2 years with Silas. So I think they're definitely in the right direction.
And I mean, just overall, the chemistry was there, and I felt like with Dylan Brooks, everyone knows what kind of player he is, but I feel like they just had him more competitive. They were just more competitive this year.
Yeah, I thought so too. But let's talk about that Brooklyn Nets team because they are also the second team that was eliminated this past week. In my
Yeah.
opinion, this Nets team, worst position in the entire NBA, even worse than teams like Detroit and Washington
In
because
Portland. I think they're worse in Portland too. They're in
yeah,
a worse spot.
yeah, just any team, Charlotte, like they pretty much screwed themselves over. Like it sound familiar? A team that made a trade, they went all in, they lost all their draft capital, and it went to another team, and now that team's good. And that team who made the terrible trade was the Nets, and now they did it again.
Well, I mean, even after, and they thought they had a budding star in Mikal Bridges. So I mean, but he just didn't. He didn't pan
Yeah,
out. So
we thought he was going to be we thought he was going to, from what we saw last season, take the next step to be an all-star,
yeah.
but it didn't really become of that. Like, don't even get us started with Ben Simmons.
Yeah, I mean, they have no leverage. What are they going to do with that? I don't know.
Yeah, they cannot control their future, so they're going to have to find ways to start winning basketball games, and I don't really know how they're going to do that because
I mean,
they
they
don't
have
have
decent young pieces. They really do. Cam Thomas, Nick Claxton.
Claxton. I heard Claxton may leave though.
He's a free agent, but I think
Yeah,
everyone, both sides, I think, want to resign.
Is he restricted?
No, I don't think he is.
I think he'll walk.
I don't know. It's hard, but I mean, he's the center's. I mean, he's the Nets big. He's their Day'Ron Sharp. Also, Day'Ron Sharp. I mean, he came on late.
He had a decent year for them, and then as you said, Cam Thomas. He's been a little bit inconsistent, not necessarily the steps we thought he would take, especially with the flashes that we saw last season. Not really where we wanted to see him. They fired Jack Vaughn. Now Kevin Ollie's in there, but
it's a terrible situation.
We don't expect him to stay. I mean, they're just an absolute disaster. And I mean, honestly,
in free agency, I mean, but they have. I mean, how much do they have any money or no?
Because they got the Ben Simmons contract. They still got to keep him on the roster for one more
year.
They got 40. Well, I think he's got a player option this year, but obviously he's going to take it because it's $40 million for someone who hasn't played.
Yeah. And I don't even know. Do they say he's going to be back next year? I don't even know.
Dude.
That's what I mean. That's what they said this year.
This Ben Simmons guy, man.
No, I feel that. But yeah. But Bridges, I don't even think if they get a star that to be 50-50 with him, I don't even know if that would work. I think he'd have to be the secondary player.
What they should do is, going back to Houston, they had the opportunity to get Jalen Green, but the part about it wasn't to the fact to get Jalen Green. It was the fact to potentially level down to get Jalen Green, but also get control of their draft picks back, which puts them in a more flexible situation to commit to the rebuild rather than looking like a rebuilding team that has to be forced to win.
Yeah, I mean, forced to win is a stretch too. That, I mean, it's not possible. I don't think it's even possible.
And I think they should definitely maybe consider that this offseason because
I don't know. Houston wouldn't do that now, would they?
I think Houston would. I
don't know.
Maybe Brooklyn can throw in someone else. Maybe I don't know, but I think.
I mean, Houston, they have a lot of young pieces.
Green was inconsistent a lot of this season, so I still think Houston would do that deal. I mean, 3 firsts for Brooklyn that you could potentially control again.
Yeah.
There's just not a lot of flexibility to go out and contend, and when you did,
I don't think they would give up Green though. I mean, because he's superstar potential. And Bridges is already. I think Bridges is like 28, right?
I think he's like 27, 26. Hold on, let me check.
I think he's 27 actually.
But yeah, 27. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, the Nets, they're just not looking good. It's not good. I don't know.
Okay. So let's move on from the lights out segment. We'll still have our lights out segment as each team gets eliminated from the play-in and from the playoffs. But let's move on to our surprises and disappointments. First, let's start with the Western Conference. we're going to alternate back and forth from surprises and disappointments, each one of us. And my first surprise, I don't think anybody expected this. The Oklahoma City Thunder all of a sudden just exploded. They went from 10th in the West last season to almost getting first this season, and they were in control with that first seed for a while. Shea was injured. They lost a couple of games, and now they're at the 3 slot. But still, I know how good Luka Doncic has been playing lately, but Shea, to me, from where the Thunder are in the standings, is second to me, runner-up for MVP, obviously behind the Joker.
Yeah.
I think he's that.
Oh, I thought you were going with
good.
Luka. I was about to say.
No.
Yeah. I mean, Luke, great stats, but I think number one, you have to be top seed.
And, I mean, all of a sudden, they've learned how to shoot the ball from last season. They were 46.5% from last season. Now they're shooting nearly 50% from the field. They've increased their three-point percentage by 3%. They're the best team in the league in three-point percentage, so they're scoring the ball at an absolute rate. And I think one of the most important things is that Chet Holmgren, I feel like he should be, even though we know how good Wemby's been, I think Chet should really be in consideration of getting the Rookie of the Year, because you look at what Chet has opened for the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think he's really opened, like what Rudy Gobert is doing with Minnesota, which we'll get into in a little bit. I feel like he's really opened that offense, added more flexibility to that offense, because people now, when Shea and Chet do the pick and roll, you've got to pick your poison. Then if Chet gets the ball in the paint, you've got to collapse. And then the shooters like Isaiah Joe, Jalen Williams, who's now a better shooter from the 3, are hitting those 3-point shots this year.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, but the only thing I disagree with is the Wemby and Chet. I think it has to be Wemby. Chet might not even be 2. The way Brandon Miller's playing.
Yeah, I'd still put Chet at 2 just because I mean, for a little bit in the season, I thought Chet, to me, was going to be Rookie of the Year for a little bit, and then Wemby just went on a tear. But I think for where the Thunder are compared to last season with Chet, I think you got to give him the runner-up. I mean, Miller's been doing his thing. He's first half of the season, we really didn't see it from him. He's played a lot better, but I think Chet's definitely second. As I just mentioned, going back to the Thunder, Jalen Williams has had a surge in his game. He's improved his points per game from 14.5 to 19.5, and quite frankly, he is looking like one of the most improved players. Obviously, Tyrese Maxey, Kobe White in that conversation, but Jalen Williams is another big reason why the Thunder have elevated their game to where they are.
Yeah. So, are we going to move on to the Timberwolves?
Yeah, let's move on to the Timberwolves. You can start us off.
So I just think that, I mean, a lot of people think Gobert equals good defense for them, and he does have the best defensive rating in the league, but I think it's just much more than that. Jaden McDaniels guards the best player on the other team every single night, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker is just another great defensive role player. And McDaniels has 1.5 steals in blocks per game, and I just think that obviously Gobert is a presence down low, so that it's much easier for perimeter defenders when they know they have a presence inside. But I think that it's more than just Gobert in their defense.
And then I know they had that disappointing loss to Denver, obviously. We're filming this Thursday, so that was Wednesday, not yesterday. But even with that loss, still an incredible season for Minnesota. It looked like last season that the Gobert trade was going to go down as one of the worst trades in history. 5 first-round picks, Walker Kessler, who really looked good last year. He hasn't looked that good this year. It's still 5 first. I mean, it's still a loss, but that trade looked historically bad. Now it's a little bit okay from where the Timberwolves positioning is. I got a question going back to the Thunder a little bit and the Timberwolves. Who do you think is going to make a further run in the playoffs?
Yeah, so I think it's the Timberwolves just because of the defensive side of the ball and the home court. I know OKC does have a really good home court, but the Timberwolves this year at home, and they have a little bit more playoff experience with last year and the year before. So I think now that it'll be his 3rd year in the playoffs, I think it's their time to make a run. I think maybe Western Conference Finals is where I see them going.
Here's the intriguing thing right now with the current standings. You've got OKC's at 2, Minnesota's at 3 because OKC has the tiebreaker.
Mm-hmm.
But 6 seeds, the Pelicans, Phoenix can jump them. But if you're the Timberwolves or the Thunder, you rather play a Pelicans team, in my opinion, than a Phoenix or a dangerous offensive team in Sacramento. So it's intriguing, like, is the 2 seed really that much better? And maybe the Warriors or the Lakers get hot and jump up to the 7-8 and potentially get that 7 slot. And maybe you don't want to be the 2 seed. I don't know who's going to finish with the 2 or 3. Personally, to me, the way OKC has been playing, I think I would take the Thunder.
Yeah,
because
I mean the Timberwolves play the Hawks. They play the Hawks, and I don't remember who their last game is.
I know the Thunder
play the games.
I know the Thunder play the Bucks without Giannis at home, and then they play Dallas at home. But Dallas is going to probably rest that game.
Yeah, they will.
Pretty much locked up the 5 seed.
Yeah,
I think the Thunder are probably going to be the 2, Minnesota the 3, unless the Thunder lose one of the games. So
the Nuggets don't even have number 1. They don't have it locked. I wouldn't.
They don't have it locked necessarily, but they do.
They're in control.
I mean, OKC has the tiebreaker, but
I think the Timberwolves have it with
Denver's got San Antonio and Memphis. I mean, if they don't win those games, we're assuming they're gonna win those games.
But going back to the tiebreaker with OKC and Minnesota, doesn't Minnesota have it?
No, it looks like OKC. I think they're 2-2, and then OKC. I think the next tiebreaker is because they're in the same division. It's division games, and they're both 12-4. So it goes to conference record. You're right. Timberwolves do.
Yeah.
Wrong thing on my Timberwolves have the tiebreaker. Okay, Timberwolves are the 2.
But I mean, again, we don't know if the 2 or the 3 is going to be better, and even the 1, I don't know how good.
I mean, like when you look at the 1, let's move on to our next thing as we're talking about this, the Wild Wild West. You've got this 1 seed situation. If you're Denver, you're probably going to have to play one of, as it currently stands, Phoenix, Sacramento, the Lakers or the Warriors. And if one of those teams, especially the Lakers, Warriors, Phoenix, if they get hot at the right time, and we saw what teams did as from the play-in last year, the Lakers going to the conference finals, the Heat making the finals all the way from the play-in, anything can happen there, whether that's the 2 seed being Minnesota or the 1 seed being Denver.
Because as you know well, in the playoffs, it's just about playing good at the right time. And any one of those teams, even all 10, every play-in team could all string together a couple games.
Every play-in team can make a run.
Because it's very well could be 10 teams in the West with over 45 wins, which I think would be the first time ever, I'm pretty sure.
And like when you look down the list, what's intriguing, like we got the LA Dallas matchup set already. That one's probably going to be my personal favorite.
Oh yeah. I mean, superstar versus superstar versus superstar versus superstar.
Superstar versus superstar. And Dallas has been on a tear lately, but I've thought about this series ever since it was officially announced, and I still haven't made my pick because they're both playing really, really good, consistent basketball at the right time, especially Dallas lately. But that's a tough pick to make, so I'll figure that one out.
Yeah.
And then you've got New Orleans, who's been a little bit up and down. They're the 6. I mean, do you think they could do anything?
I mean, no, honestly, I don't. Just because of how stacked the rest of the West is, they're not. Even if they stay the 6, they're not going to beat OKC or Minnesota. I just don't see it happening. So,
the only thing though, like maybe OKC and Minnesota are a little vulnerable because of the playoff experience. More toward OKC on that one, but I think New Orleans. I don't think New Orleans really has the fire. Like they've got Zion, but we haven't seen him play consistent enough. And the Pelicans really haven't been healthy all season long. Maybe they get healthy at the right time. But the only thing that would hold me back from OKC and Minnesota in that series would be the playoff experience. But New Orleans, I don't really.
It's not like New Orleans has any. It's not like they have that much anyway.
Yeah, they really don't have a lot of that.
But I mean, Minnesota is missing. They're going to be missing Karl Anthony Towns most likely. So
he's coming back though. They said he's coming back Saturday.
This Saturday?
Yeah, or Sunday or Friday. They want to get him in one game before
Oh yeah,
the
no,
playoffs. They
actually, I
said
think
he's going
so.
to come back.
Yeah,
So
I
I
mean,
think,
yeah, that's true.
and I don't
What
think,
else?
and then you've got Phoenix at 7,
I mean,
and
they could
Phoenix,
easily be anyone in the. I
they
think they
could
could be anyone.
easily. We're going to get into them a little bit later, but Phoenix. Really, they've got the team to beat. They got the team on paper with Durant, Booker, Beal, obviously to beat anyone. They've really been inconsistent this season. They've had their fourth quarter woes all season long. They've just haven't really been healthy. And I mean, if they do get that young OKC team or the inexperienced Timberwolves, I mean, would I take the Suns, considering we've seen what Durant has done in the postseason? We've seen Booker make it to the finals.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Honestly, they could beat any team in the West if they're
Yes,
playing.
I think they have.
They're playing
Yes,
good
I agree.
basketball.
I
So
think they
that's
have the.
yeah.
I
Who
think they're
the
one of
West
the
would beat?
teams. I think Denver, the Clippers, and the Suns to me are realistically the three teams that have a shot at getting out of the
Yeah,
West.
I think so too. But yeah, I agree.
I don't really see Dallas or the
Yeah,
Lakers or the Warriors making a miracle run. I don't see those teams matching up good against Denver. I think Phoenix's scoring power could match Denver.
I think
I think
Dallas' scoring power could too.
I think Dallas' scoring power could match up Denver, but the question is on Dallas, who are you going to put Derek Lively or Gafford up to that test
Yeah, that is
against
true.
Sugar? And then Luka is not really the best defender, and I mean they could outscore him. They could outscore him, but I don't. I think the Nuggets would control the pace of that series,
Yeah, I
especially
mean,
if that ends up. That could be a second round series right there. But
I wonder what bigs in the West could handle Jokic because Gobert didn't last night.
I mean,
So
you've got Holmgren with OKC, you've got Gobert, Clippers, you've got Zubac, Dallas, you've got either Lively or Gafford.
hmm
Pelicans, you've got I don't even think they're starting Valanciunas anymore. I think they're starting Larry Nance, but they probably put Zion on him.
yeah, they
Phoenix,
definitely would.
Nurkic,
Nurkic could hold his own.
Sacramento,
Sabonis.
Sabonis. I mean, but he's a terrible defender.
Yeah,
The Lakers, I mean, we saw what AD and Hachimura wasn't working. And Golden
yeah.
State, I mean, Draymond's just gonna he's too small for you. Like I know
And something's
Draymond's
gonna
really
happen with
good.
Draymond this postseason.
Yeah,
It's just bound to happen.
I don't I'm still I'm probably gonna lean toward Denver. Still, I don't think anybody can stop Jokic. And
Yeah,
we'll see what happens in the West. But let's move on to the East, which has been quite frankly, call it a
uncompetitive.
disappointment or
Yeah,
just call it a Boston dominance. Boston is quite
yeah,
frankly just dominating the Eastern Conference. And the difference between the 1 and the 2 seed, did you see this? The difference between the 1 and the 2 seed in the East is bigger than the difference
yeah.
between
No,
the
I saw
1 and the
that.
10 seed in the
It's
Western
crazy.
Conference. That's
Just crazy.
crazy. That is insanity. That's credit to the West, but the East
But
fairly
also, the
has
East has
been
had way more injuries, in my opinion. Joel Embiid,
uncompetitive.
Donovan
Yeah,
Mitchell.
Joel Embiid, Donovan Mitchell, Tyler. You can put Tyler, Trae Young in there as
Yeah,
well.
Tyrese Halliburton was injured for a
Zach
while.
LaVine's out for the season.
hmm Yeah, I mean, it's just
They,
injury played, and the Celtics have not had the injury bug.
I mean, let's Boston. Let's talk about them for a little bit because, like, what happens if Boston does lose in the like before they get to the finals? Would
Yeah,
this be
I
an
mean,
all-time collapse? Because
oh yeah, I mean, because what else do they? What more can they do? They can't add anyone else. I mean, in there, I mean, I guess they could run it back, but if this isn't the year, what would be?
yeah, quite frankly, like we'll talk about the bottom of the Eastern Conference, 7 through 10, actually 5 through 10 a little bit before we get to the top. But I mean, you look at Atlanta; they haven't done anything all year.
Yeah, haven't
Chicago is
hasn't done.
Chicago.
Yeah,
Miami's been up and down this season, but still, who knows with them? Philly, Embiid's been injured, but we've seen Philadelphia in the playoffs before.
hmm
And Indiana and Orlando, we've never really
yeah. I
seen
mean, no
those
experience.
teams in the postseason.
I
So,
mean, I think the Heat have a chance to make it out of the play-in and make a run. I mean, as they always do. And I think,
Honestly,
mhm,
as a Heat fan this year, what I've been seeing with that team on the offensive side of the ball, I know they had the offensive surge in the postseason, but seeing the offense with Butler really taking a step back. I mean, he said for 2 months that he really wanted to assert himself,
yeah,
his team into the playoff mix. I mean, they lost 2 crucial games the past couple weeks to Philly to pretty much give themselves the easy path to at least home court in the play-in, and then they lost to Indiana to keep them in the play-in and
and
not
then
into the postseason.
they almost lost a close game against my Hawks.
To Hawks, and then they lost last night to Dallas, and I don't know what's going on with them. Like Bam Adebayo can't score the ball. I mean,
Yeah.
they've had injuries all season long. If Miami makes another run, I will completely devaluatize the regular season because
Yeah,
if
no.
this happens again in the play-in, they make a run. I don't. I
Yeah.
mean, it looks impossible, but if they can somehow upset Philly in that 7-8 playing game in Philadelphia, I mean, the path to the conference finals, when you look at it, you've got Milwaukee in the first round, which honestly, looking at Milwaukee the way they've been playing,
It's
I mean,
winnable.
you're comfortable with that. You've beaten
Yeah.
them, Miami. If you've beaten them twice, 2020, obviously last year in that 1-8 collapse.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the Knicks or the Pacers. I mean, you've got the path if you can get that 7 seed. But if you get that if you slip to that 8th seed and you play Boston, I mean, they could make it tough on Boston,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
it
yeah,
just
Boston hasn't been dominant as of late. I mean, they lost
I
2
mean,
against the
well,
Hawks.
I think they've been settling it down a little bit because they've locked
I
up.
don't I don't understand losing your rhythm before the playoffs. Why not just
That's
rest everyone if they don't? I
welcome
think
to
they're.
yeah. I think they're trying to rest player. I've noticed on their injury reports. I think they're trying to rest like each guy, like one guy per game. They're just doing it in like stints, like giving
Oh,
the
I
guys
see.
a little bit of a break. But I mean, if you like, I think between this Philadelphia and Miami, I think whoever gets the 7 seed arguably could make the run. I think if
Mm-hmm.
you get the 8 seed and you play Boston, I think you're gonna be screwed over. But even if you're Boston, you're looking at that, and you've got like right now, you've got to play Philadelphia or Miami. You've been dominating the East all along. Congrats, you get an Embiid MVP Philadelphia, or you get this dangerous Heat team that's beaten you twice.
Yeah, I mean, but also it's kind of sad to see how uncompetitive the play-in is going to be. I mean, obviously it's just one game,
I mean,
so
I think
they could
Philly
win.
Miami is going to be good. I think
Well,
that's
I'm
like
talking about the
that's not
bottom two.
the bottom two. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, well, I mean, whoever wins that,
I mean, who
they're going
knows?
to lose.
Yeah,
I mean, who
I mean, the
knows?
Hawks did it
We've seen
last
the
year. They
Hawks.
went on the road.
We've seen the Hawks make a run in the postseason
Hmm.
before.
Yeah, and last year
I
they
think
made it tough on Boston.
they did make it. They
Took
made
it to
it
six
tough on
games.
Boston, but I frankly that game is just to decide who loses to
Yeah,
Philly
it's
Miami.
really true.
But I think that Philly Miami game is probably going to be the game of the play, and whether that's in Philly or Miami, I think that's or maybe we get Lakers Golden State in the West, but I think Philly Miami is the game of the play, and I think both of those teams really need that win.
Is it realistic for the Heat to get the 7, or because they'd have to
Oh
win
yeah,
out, right?
on to get the 7, they would need Orlando to beat Philly Friday, and they would need to win out. But they played the Raptors twice at home, so I think Miami, if they
Mm.
focus, even with how bad they've been playing, they should beat the Raptors twice. So if they could still host that game, but quite frankly, in a 1-game elimination game, to me, I don't. It doesn't matter who is really hosting 7,
You're
8.
right.
I mean,
I
there's
mean,
still
actually,
outside
I
shot.
disagree because both the Heat is a tough place. Miami's a tough place to play, and so is Philadelphia. Both very tough places to play.
I mean, Miami's been really inconsistent at home this season. They're 20-19. They've been one of the better teams on the road, but at home they've been stinking up the joint. And I mean, Philly's a tough place to play, but I think Butler, especially going back to Philly, when Butler plays in Philadelphia, he's been play. That's one of the best places he's played at ever since
Mm-hmm.
he's joined Miami. So I don't think that quite frankly, I don't really think it matters necessarily. All I know is that wherever that game is, I think that game is probably going to be a good one and going down to the wire.
Yeah, it's always good to have some good playing games because I know they're not always the most watched games. So.
And then you've got Cleveland and Orlando at the 4-5 right now. I mean, you're looking at.
I think that'd be a
That's
fun
a.
series.
I think that'd be a fun. I think that would be a fun series. They're both defensive teams. Not maybe not really the appealing series to the
Yeah,
typical fan, but I think
yeah,
that would be an intriguing series, especially not knowing how Orlando's going to perform and seeing can Cleveland bounce back from their disastrous first round series against the Knicks last year.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and neither side really has great experience. I mean, I think Donovan Mitchell has the most on the Cavs,
Yeah.
but
Maybe,
other than
yeah.
that,
Other than that, yeah.
I don't really know.
And then 3-6 right now, if it started today, it would be New York, Indiana, which I think you've got a high-powered offensive team who's had the best offense in history,
Yeah,
and you've got a New York Knicks team who's we know is probably the better team, but
but they lost.
they've
Mm-hmm.
they've lost Randall,
Lost
and
Julius Randle. I don't know. I feel like Pacers could easily take that
I
series.
think the Pacers could make that series interesting. I mean, the Brunson Halliburton matchup is just pure bucket list. Just
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, two different kind of scores too.
yeah. And
So
then let's go to the top of the East and let's talk about the 2 seed, the Bucks, because something that's really been shocking is the Bucks just not really being where we expected them to be when they got Damian Lillard.
yeah,
What do you think about them?
I mean, it's not terrible because they're 50 games, winning 50 games in the first year of a duo. Obviously, everyone thought they were going to gel immediately, and they didn't. But where they're at, I mean, depending on when Giannis comes back, what does it say? I think
He's out
they
for
don't
the
know yet.
regular season. He's out for
Yeah, I know, I knew that.
but he'll
They're
probably be
hopeful.
back for game
Yeah,
one for whatever team they play.
but I mean, it's the same thing with Phoenix in the West. They could easily Dame and Giannis on the same team could easily just
Yeah, obviously they could gel, but on it, like I get your argument that they've been, even though for how bad we look at them, they've been good. But the problem is when we see them all season long, they really just have not been consistent. We really haven't seen the consistency we've seen from a team that we put on their level, like the Boston Celtics. And quite frankly, Middleton, even though he's played a little bit better as of late, I don't think he's where
yeah.
he needs to be the third best player. And quite frankly, I said this on last week's show. I want to hear your reaction to this. I don't think anybody has said this. I think if the Bucks were to do it over again, I think Chris Middleton should have been the one to be traded, not Jrue Holiday, because when you look at because I think if you look at their defensive holes right now, and
Yeah,
you
no.
look at, I think Jrue Holiday, like you could make it work with Holiday and Lillard. We've seen teams who've played two guards that are small, and I think it works, especially because you can make up you can make it up, like because you've got the big guys, Giannis and Lopez, who can both guard on the perimeter as well. And then instead of starting Malik Beasley, you could have had a lineup of Holiday, Dame, Crowder, and Giannis, and then Brook.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't think the Celtics would have done it if Chris Middleton was the other option.
They traded Middleton to Portland, so he could have went anywhere. It might have not
Uh,
been. I'm saying like Milwaukee,
oh yeah,
instead
I
of
see what you're
sending
saying.
Jrue Holiday to Portland, trade Chris Middleton to Portland. Why not? It like
Oh yeah, I mean yeah, I think that you're saying that you think the Bucks would have a few more
been
wins and
better
have gelled
off.
better with Drew.
And I think he was also the guy, yeah, who like
He was a leader
was the
too.
leader. Yeah, the
Yeah.
leader. That's what I was getting to. I think he was the leader of that team, and I
hmm
think without him, if the Bucks start being inconsistent on the offensive side of the ball,
And it's
it's
not just that he's a leader; he's just also he was like the calm piece because Giannis gets
yeah,
angry. I mean that
yeah.
team is just they needed him and
They
they
really
lost him.
did need him, and quite frankly, this coaching, I think I would not be surprised, as I said, if Milwaukee loses in the first round to one of those teams. They've had three coaches in 10 months. I mean, Adrian, like, was it the right move for the Bucks to hire a first-year coach with this contending team?
No.
Probably not. But could the Bucks have made the situation a little easier for that guy? Could they have done things better? Probably. So I think, honestly, the Bucks could have probably approached this trade a little bit better because, like, you look at it right now, like the Bucks. I think the Bucks should have realized that Chris Middleton has had this knee issue, and ever since they won in 21, he hasn't looked like that same guy that Giannis was giving the ball to at the end of the games. That was the Chris Middleton I saw in 21, and ever since then, I've seen him been in and out of the lineup, a 15-point per game scorer, which is not going to cut it as the third option on that team.
Yeah, and even Beasley, I think, had a down year too. So so it's just it's a tough situation there. But I mean, they still could string together a couple games.
Yes, they could still string together
because we know postseason Dame time.
Yes, I mean, postseason. You've got Dame, but I just. You know what? Screw it. I think whoever goes out of that 7-8 is going to beat the Bucks. I don't see. There's just been so much inconsistency this year from those teams, but
you don't think there's been inconsistency from both the 7 and the 8?
Yes, I think there's been inconsistencies, but I think those teams match up really, really good against Milwaukee. I think Miami's got the defense to stop the Milwaukee offense, and even with their offensive woes, I don't think Miami has. I think Miami's figured. I think Miami for years. I've been saying this. They figured out an answer to the Bucks team because over the years they've played. They figured out how to stop. What they called it was the wall. They figured out how to stop Giannis in the paint.
Yeah,
and they've had Milwaukee's number for years. And I mean, Philadelphia was we forget Philadelphia was the second seed before Embiid was out. And
true. I mean, and they have two superstars with Maxey too.
And the Bucks have two superstars, but
I think if you're the Bucks, who would you rather play out of those two teams?
That's tough because I've seen Miami windle down, but Miami's had Milwaukee's number.
Yeah, I know it's tough.
I think for matchup purposes, I would probably say you don't want to play. I would probably say you probably don't want to play Philadelphia just because of the way they're playing right now.
Yeah.
But honestly,
and you just have two guys on that team that could just.
Yeah, you have two guys on that team that are going to score consistently. That's the difference between Philly and Miami. Even though Philly may not have as good of a defense as Miami, two guys that can get you 30 points at least on any given night.
At least one of them is going to go for 30 every night.
Yes.
If one's not playing great, the other one will be. So, and I don't think the Heat have that at all.
No, and who knows with Miami because it's just hard to write them off because
it really is.
Seen what they've done. But I'll say Philly for now. But honestly, both of those matchups from the way the Milwaukee's just been helter-skelter all season, and I just think in a 7-game series where teams have to be locked in, I don't think they're going to be where they need to be in a series against two teams. I mean, it sucks for them that they still got the 2 seed and they're playing two teams that arguably are not 7 seeds, but still that's the business. But
it wasn't just the Bucks that had it down here. Not having maybe the Bucks will, but not having at least 2, 3, 4 teams crack the 50 win mark. It's just it's not just the Bucks, in my opinion.
I mean, we've seen this from the East for years, though. I remember 22. Miami got the first seed and they got 53 wins as the number 1 seed, which
it shouldn't happen.
That's not a lot.
It just, maybe it's good for basketball. It's more competitive, but I think it's better to have a competitive top than a more competitive middle.
So if you had an expansion, like quick pitch, if you had an expansion, you got Seattle and Las Vegas, which team are you moving to the East to try to make the East competitive? You've got maybe you could put New Orleans, Memphis, maybe even Minnesota. Minnesota's as close to Chicago,
and that would be immediate because they're not going anywhere for the next 5 years, 6 to 10, maybe more than that. But
it's just how it is, and people want to play in the bigger markets. Like LA is a big market there in the West. I mean, Cuban has made Dallas a decent market.
Really,
I mean,
Luka.
Denver's now the team. You've obviously got Golden State, which Curry is a market.
Yeah, but in his own self, and yeah, wherever LeBron goes, if he doesn't stay with the Lakers,
LeBron goes. So I mean, there's just really nothing else. It's just not going to change unless a lot of players go back to the East. And I think what happened was for a little bit when Durant, Kyrie all went to the East, we thought that was going to shift, but obviously it didn't shift.
Yeah. Oh, and I guess they all went to the West.
And then they all went to the West.
None of them stayed in the East. Yeah. But I mean, the East for the future, I mean, Pistons are going to be getting better. Magic are getting up there. I mean, there's a little future there.
There's some future, but like maybe the Warriors and the Lakers drop because of their age. I mean,
and we don't know where Paul George is going either.
Yeah, Paul George is important. He's getting up there though, but he's still a crucial factor for a team. People think he's going to go to Philly, but we'll see. And then let's move on to a couple other things. Let's focus away from some teams and let's go to some individual stuff and some more broader stuff in the NBA. First, something that I thought is surprising was Victor Wembanyama with the Spurs. He was better than, quite frankly, what he was hyped up to. Everyone thought he was going to be the next guy, and he absolutely lived up to that. 21 points per game, 10.5 rebounds per game, 3.5 blocks per game, and a steal per game in his rookie season. Probably needs to be, one thing I would probably criticize is he probably needs to be a more consistent shooter, but with his presence on the defensive end and that 7'3" frame,
it's so hard to be a consistent shooter at that height. It really is.
Yeah.
But I'm confused. If you think Wemby is better than the hype, and his hype was insane, but you still think Chet has a shot at Rookie of the Year?
I think Chet should be. I thought I had him for a little bit, but like this second half of the season, Wemby's been on a different level.
Yeah, I mean, he's making it normal.
For Chet, like you've got to keep him in the conversation because the Thunder, you've got to think of the impact, like 10th to 2nd. Obviously, there's a lot of factors going into why they did that. But you still got to put. I wouldn't say like it should be a non like.
I think it's going to be unanimous. It shouldn't be
like I don't. Yeah, that's what I meant. I don't think it should be unanimous. I think it should be
really
a little. No, I don't think it should.
But I don't think Rookie of the Year is about winning. I think it's just about
but it's just like the voters and the fans don't really see like the impact of Chet. But I mean, when you've got to give Wemby credit, obviously.
Yeah.
And if the Spurs can just give him one point guard, the Spurs can just give him one guy. This Spurs team will at least be in the play-in, if not the playoffs next season. They just got to get one guy.
I mean, they will. I think they will this offseason.
Because I think if the Spurs didn't have Wemby this season, they would have been worse than the Pistons and the Wizards. Because like you look at the roster, Trae Jones, Malachi Brannon, Champagnie, Chetty Osman, Devontae Graham, Blake Wesley, Calvin. Quite frankly, that you could make the case that that's worse than the Pistons or the Wizards. And Wemby's Wemby's just.
So you think in 5 years? In 5 years, do you think Wemby's going to be the best player in the NBA?
No, I still think Luka and Jokic will be the best. I think Wemby will be a top 5. I don't think Wemby will win MVPs, and Wemby will. In 5 years, Wemby will win an MVP probably. Wemby will maybe be in contention depending on the team. But I think he'd be in that conversation, the new Mount Rushmore with Jokic, Doncic, Wemby, and
Jokic will not be in 5 years.
5 years, Jokic.
Because with his play style, he's not going to be gone. He's
not going to be gone. He
doesn't need the athletics.
He can turn into not a drain, like sort of like a Draymond. He's like
Kevin Love, kind of like he doesn't need to be super athletic.
He can turn into this Kevin Love type
Or
of
like
player.
Dirk, like
And
how
Jokic
Dirk
is
played
only
forever.
29. Like Curry's like 30, like 36.
Yeah,
Jokic in 5
and
years will
LeBron. I
be
mean,
34.
LeBron. Look at LeBron.
Oh,
I mean,
LeBron,
obviously,
yeah.
very different
LeBron's
genetics,
like
but LeBron's
so.
LeBron.
I still think Jokic will be up there. I think Wemby will be up there, and who knows who the fourth guy will be. But I think
But I
those
mean,
three.
the young West, the West young stars is
Yeah,
just insane.
the young West is very promising.
Luka, Anthony Edwards, John
Right,
Morant, Zion,
Shea.
Wemby. It's crazy. It really is.
It's a lot.
They're probably the brightest future in NBA history. Well, I mean, I guess it's not the future if it's history, but
Yeah, I probably like oh the most excitement we've probably had
yeah,
in the
that's a better
league
way to put it.
since LeBron James
Yeah,
has come into the NBA.
for sure.
It just seems like I don't. Do you think he'll get in the GOAT conversation eventually? Because I
It's
don't
hard
see
it's
that.
hard to tell right now just because teammates, and it does take teammates to get there. But I mean, I don't even know what they'll have. Probably a top 5 pick in this year. Yeah, obviously,
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Oh
most
yeah,
likely.
unless they
But
drop, they
this is not
can
a
go
great
down.
year to have a top pick. They would rather have it.
No, not necessarily. Yeah, obviously next year,
Yeah,
2025 draft will be Cooper Flag.
yeah. Cooper, so many. That's very talented draft.
Yeah,
Very talented. But yeah.
but
So I
I
mean, yeah,
think.
Wemby, great year.
Do you think if the Hawks don't have issues, do you think the Spurs should go after a guy like Trae Young? And I think the trade could work because you could
It really
give
could.
the Spurs the Hawks their picks back from the DeJounte Murray trade
I mean,
and get
I think
Young.
the Spurs. I think they'd be open to even getting DeJounte back. I
That's
mean, because
like I
it's
think
no
that's
bad
tough.
blood.
That I mean, there's no bad blood, but that just it. I don't think it doesn't really happen that fast.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I think they need a guy who can set up Wemby, who can help Wemby score the ball. I mean, the defense is still a disaster. Like I think the defense is still
Yeah,
a disaster, but I think people will want to play with Wemby. I think free agents will want to play with Wemby.
But what player would they? They'd have to put a player in for Trae, and I don't know. They don't have anyone that could.
I mean, you could throw in Keldon Johnson.
Yeah,
I
Keldon.
mean, I wouldn't trade Devin Vassell, but I would throw in Keldon Johnson.
Keldon would be a good. You'd probably fit well on the Hawks.
Yeah, I think so.
But I mean, also we have
the
Deontay
sort of him
Hunter.
and Hunter. Sort yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Sort
It's
of
like
him
the same
Hunter,
player.
like, yeah, like the same player. And I mean, you can throw in another guy, but I think if they can get a star guard and they can get a defensive forward with Wemby to make a trio with Wemby, that team will be good for a long time. But
I think they just need a guard because if they keep Keldon Johnson, I mean,
I think they need a
Vassell's
3-and-D forward
good
because their defense is terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they just need better guard defense as well. Not just 3-and-D forwards.
Yeah, that's the problem with Trae Young because obviously, he's one of the worst.
Because it's not like Trae's very good at setting up the lob, but it's not like it's hard.
Yeah, Trae's a great offensive guy. He can score the ball. He can set him up.
But for Wemby, you don't need a great facilitator because he can just catch it above players.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a little confused.
I think that pick and roll though would be lethal.
It really would
because you've either got a hedge up on Trae on the 3, or you got to go down on
Trae's floater.
You can have his floater. You could double team Trae, give it to Wemby,
and
then or you can just guard Wemby and then Trae gets his shot.
Yeah, that would be really. And imagine shooters
that would
be
lethal. And
that really would be.
I don't think there would be any way to guard that, legitimately.
But I mean, also Trae, besides that random Eastern Conference Finals, I mean, he has not led to winning at all.
He has. Yeah, it's like I wasn't going to talk about the Hawks, but I saw an interesting stat that the Hawks are better on the defensive side of the ball without Trae Young. And these past, obviously, he came back yesterday against Charlotte, but ever since Trae Young has been out, the Hawks have been better on defense, and they were 12-11 without him, which is better than their record this year. a better
And they
winning
were
percentage.
7-3 in 10 games without him as well.
Yeah, and they had those impressive wins against the Celtics twice, which I
Yeah.
thought there would maybe some hope for Atlanta. Then they
Lost 3
lost
in
a
a row.
couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the Hawks, the future, I see a future there because they have very valuable trade assets, just players. Because Okongwu,
Yeah,
Hunter, but
I honestly I would disagree with that. But let's
really, yeah, we can move on
that's
from
it.
that.
We can move on from that.
That's a little personal.
That's an off season
Yeah.
topic. Let's move on to a team that Atlanta will be playing in the play-in, the Chicago Bulls. I thought something that everybody expected at the trade deadline was the Bulls to trade DeRozan, trade Levine, trade Vucevic, trade Caruso, just blow the whole thing up. And they're staying tact for some reason. They've been 500 ever since 23, like late 22 to now to the current time, and they've just really haven't gone anywhere, and they're stuck in this middle area, and it's not going to get you a high draft pick, and you're not good enough to make the playoffs. So you've got to pick a direction, and the direction from how old DeRozan is, because he can't really be the number one. I thought they should have traded everybody and cashed out. Now these guys' values are only decreasing.
But they did have a couple positives. Kobe White played well.
Yes, Kobe White is the one positive of that Chicago team. He's been looking like the runner-up behind Maxey for most improved. That to me, that's the real only like positive that I've seen from Chicago this season. But other than, Patrick Williams showed flashes early this season, but he got injured.
Injury, yeah.
Levine's injured, but like it might have been better off if you just traded him before he got injured. But now nobody wants him because he's injured. And Chicago, I just didn't understand because you're stuck in this 10 spot. DeRozan's a free agent, and he might just
I don't. What do they do now? I don't know.
He just might walk himself out of Chicago, and you're not going to get anything for him. Like DeRozan didn't have that much value, but you could have gotten at least something for at least something.
Yeah. And it's not like free agents are going to want to play for Chicago. It is a big city, big market, but it's not a good environment.
Nobody, there really isn't anything attractive about Chicago, and they should have. And it was interesting in 22 because they were the first seed for a little bit before Alonzo Ball got out, and that's what probably made it tough for them to try to blow it up because you've seen them at a high, but it's just really not. They're just really not a great team, and it's just been like they've been up and down, winning streak to losing streak this season. And
but it's not even like the roster. It's not. I don't think it's the roster that's so bad. It's just they just don't click and injuries.
And I think that trade to get Vucevic, that with the 2 first-round picks and Wendell Carter, I think that really was a disaster trade for them because Franz Wagner was one of those first-round picks.
Oh yeah,
that's now in Orlando, 19 points per game. Jet Howard was the other one. He hasn't done anything, but they could have drafted somebody else with the pick.
I completely agree. It's a tough situation because what do they do now? I guess they're waiting for Lonzo. Lonzo will be back.
Lonzo
keep Kobe White. I guess they're gonna try and make Kobe White a star player.
Probably, and they better hope they somehow be lucky in the lottery because it gets somebody because this team DeRozan's gonna walk. Like I'd be shocked if he stayed. Caruso.
He does. Doesn't he have ties to Chicago though? I think he does.
Yeah, DeRozan does, but I think he probably in the back end of his career probably wants to be on a better team. Yeah, winning situation. I don't know what Caruso's contract is on the top of my head. I don't know. I think he may be a free agent this season. I think he is a free agent this season, so he might walk away.
Yeah,
and you're just not cashing out on your chips.
Yeah. I wonder, DeRozan, a piece like that, I wonder what team he would fit on and make them immediate contenders. I feel like he would fit well on the Nets, wouldn't he?
On the Nets, I would say they wouldn't. You could do that, but again, they don't have I mean, they don't have the
have any
cap
money.
room,
Yeah.
and they cannot do a sign and trade either because it may be an intriguing one, but I don't think that would be realistic. Maybe Houston may want to make a splash on him. That's the kind of guy I was talking about with Houston earlier. That 3-and-D kind of a forward. If Houston can somehow find its way to get DeRozan, I think that would be a perfect fit.
Imagine that young core with DeRozan.
I think there's other teams out there that could use him on both sides of the ball, but I think the Rockets would be a good fit. I think DeRozan just wants to get the hell out of Chicago and win some basketball games.
Yeah. I mean, because he didn't – yeah. I know. I agree with that. He's going to want to finish his career winning, and he's every right to do so.
And then what you wanted to – and what's something else that's been disappointing this season is that the injuries – we talked about this a little bit earlier, but specifically this season, quite frankly, there's been loads and loads of injuries from key players on teams.
And spent a lot of young players too, and which make it disappointing because just starting off their careers. Like LaMelo again.
Yeah.
I mean,
we haven't seen him play consistently.
When's he going to be considered a bust? When's too late to – I mean, next year, if he gets injured again
the question is, I like what I've seen from Brandon Miller the second half of the season. Do you trade LaMelo? I don't.
Yeah, no. Imagine them two together when they're both playing well.
Yeah, LaMelo just hasn't been healthy. I mean, I think part of it is that Terry Rozier was taking up a little bit of the ball. So I think no pun intended, but if LaMelo can, be that point guard, be the guy for that team with Brandon Miller, with a Mark Williams, with a draft pick. And I honestly think Charlotte had a decent trade deadline, quite frankly. I think what they did is what Chicago should have done. They cashed out on their chips. They got a first for Rozier. They got assets for PJ Washington. They even got Trey Mann and Gordon Hayward, who's been pretty solid for them. So I think Charlotte, if they can just have their guys healthy, I think I talked about this a little bit last show, but I think they need, obviously Steve Clifford's going to step down after the season. I think they need a young coach that really fits with the timeline of this team. So I think they probably should hire one of, because I didn't really understand why Steve Clifford came back, because I just didn't really think like that kind of an older guy with his like demeanor.
Such a young team too. It just doesn't.
Yeah, such a young team. It didn't really fit. And then after 2 seasons, he's stepping down.
That's why Ime Udoka was so perfect for Houston.
He's that guy, that young new head coach, brings they need someone like that. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of coaches around the league, but we'll find that out after the offseason. Obviously, the most notable team that had the inevitable injuries this season was Memphis. I mean, they've had so many players on their injury report this year, from Ja, Marcus Smart, Desmond Bane. I mean, the list goes on and on and on there. And they've taken a gap year, which is understandable from where they are. But
I mean, Ja, in my opinion, he's their future, obviously. And I think the roster they have is the roster that will bring them winning games. I mean, it's just injuries. I mean, Jaren Jackson.
I think it's injuries, but what if I'm just so curious, like, because if Memphis was healthy, now you've got another team in the West. Like, I would be curious where they finish, considering their success getting the 2 seed 2 years in a row. But I would be interested in where they would finish, because like looking at this West, like I don't even know where a team like Memphis would finish.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
probably like 7 or 8.
If they had to take a year to get a gap year, this would probably be a good one. But I mean, I feel like they need another guy, but it's tough because we really didn't see this team with Smart a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know how much Smart wouldn't have. I guess a little on the defensive side.
I mean, I think Smart's a game changer. I thought before, obviously, Porzingis broke out with Boston, I thought that was a huge loss for them. But obviously, Porzingis with his offense makes that up a little bit.
Yeah,
and Jrue Holiday, of course. But I think Smart is a game changer for any team, but it's really tough to evaluate this Memphis team. And then obviously you have other injuries and other teams who are there from to like Trae Young being out for a while with the Hawks. Maybe Tyler Hero was out like 40 games for the Heat. Obviously, Embiid out for Philadelphia. Where would Philadelphia be right now with Joel Embiid? It's disappointing that they have to be the 7th seed. Obviously, you still got the playoffs, but Philadelphia could have been in a much better position going into the postseason if Embiid was healthy, because that team was on a roll with Embiid.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Memphis though, the future is bright. I mean, Memphis fans are going to be very upset with the way the season went, but just because of injuries,
I think they understand though. Like as a sports fan, like I think you have to understand, like it's just been a really bad luck.
Yeah.
It's just been a lot of bad luck, and I mean it's not like at least everybody is like getting injured now. Like I don't want anyone to be injured, but it's like
I know
everybody's like at least everybody's out like at the same time.
Like,
And
yeah,
like,
they're not.
You can take a gap year with that, like.
And like nobody thinks they're rebuilding. Nobody thinks that they're out of the West.
Nobody thinks they're rebuilding. Like everyone should think that Memphis will be back to where hopefully they were the prior seasons.
Yeah, like it's not a Warrior situation where the Warriors.
No, it's not where the Warriors are going downhill.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it's just been a lot of injuries that have impacted. But I want to move on from that to our last two things. One more disappointing thing before we get to our last thing. How about All-Star Weekend? What are your thoughts on All-Star Weekend?
I mean, it just has to be more competitive. I don't know exactly how. How are they going to do that? Maybe they can't do like money incentives, like bonuses, can they?
Yeah, they can do money incentives.
Oh, they could.
I mean, they could. I mean, it's the NBA. They can do.
But I mean, also, but they don't want injuries to happen during the All-Star Weekend.
Yeah, I don't think I mean, the games. The game. Like I thought, I didn't understand why they moved it. I understand why they moved it away from the captains, but I don't understand. I liked how they did it in the fourth quarter, which made the game a little more competitive. Was like the Kobe rule where you had to score 24, 24 added to the target. I thought that made the games a little competitive at the end, but this was just a blowout. Like it was just.
And even like the dunk contest. Why do high flyers not want to participate in it?
Yeah, and here's my take on the dunk contest. If these guys don't want to participate, fine. Let's just get the best dunkers in America, give them free tickets, and let's have NBA players endorse like a dunker.
Oh, I like that.
Because if the NBA players don't want to do it, I mean, it would be more entertaining if we had
professional dunkers.
Professional dunkers. Maybe that's a Friday thing, not a Saturday thing. But I still think that could be intriguing. I mean, the skills contest they got to get rid of. That's just flat out stupid. The best part about the All-Star, in my opinion, was Steph Curry versus Sabrina Ionescu. I thought that was awesome.
No, that was awesome.
The NBA WNBA connection.
They're gonna have to do that again next. I think they already will.
I think they should do Steph and either Dame or Clay versus Sabrina and
Caitlin Clark. Yeah, that would be really fun.
Caitlin Clark is.
Are you saying in like a 2v2 or a 3-point contest?
Yeah, like a 2v2 3-point contest.
Yeah, I see. That would be really fun.
And then there's just really they've got to figure it out because maybe they should just flat out.
And also All-Star voting. All-Star voting is not right.
Right. And I think I don't want to say get flat out rid of the All-Star weekend, but
no.
It's not generating the buzz. And you look
at. Do you like
leagues,
East versus West? Do you like that?
I think I like East versus West, but I think what the NFL's doing, even if you got rid of the All-Star game and had some contests,
after the season,
it's or just in the middle. I just don't think that's intriguing. Maybe they could do a 2v2 tournament, but I don't think All-Stars they're just not motivated, and I don't. And they want to waste money.
Realistically, what is the point? What's the point of them trying?
I know, that's what I'm saying. What's the point of the All-Star weekend if there's just nothing that's great about it.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's literally nothing they can gain from it. But yeah, but I liked how how Mac McClung could participate
Oh
in
yeah,
the dunk
Mac
contest.
McClung is, yeah, but I like Mac McClung, and I like that he's trying to like bring back the dunk contest,
Revive, yeah,
but revive the dunk contest. But the problem with it is he's not in the NBA. He's a
yeah,
G leaguer. Like you
yeah.
can't be
It's the
having
NBA
a
dunk
G.
contest.
You
Yeah,
cannot be having a G leaguer win the NBA dunk
yeah, no,
contest.
terrible. Well,
This
I
is the
mean, you
like
wouldn't win if the NBA got
I.
their
I mean,
best dunkers. I don't think.
I think he'd still have a chance at winning because he's that good. But I still think if you had like a dunk contest, you had like Ant, you had Zion, you had
Ja,
a Ja Morant, like, and
yeah,
maybe you could throw in Mac McClung. Maybe they could do that. Like that would be a dream. And like
yeah,
I think the reason why is because part of it, in my opinion, is Aaron Gordon. I'm not saying it's his fault,
yeah. I
but
knew.
I think
Yeah,
two times. I mean, did he get robbed twice? Maybe.
I mean, that was also just a great. It was
Yeah, those were
competitive.
great dunk contests.
Yeah.
Those were two of the all time great dunk contests ever since we saw Michael and Dominique.
Yeah. But it's not like Aaron and Zach can come back and do it now. They're just
No, I
they
mean,
don't have the same
yeah,
explosiveness. But like there's no like power forward now that could do the dunk contest like Aaron Gordon did.
yeah. I
They're
mean,
all guards. So it's just
it's
different.
just it's just different, and there's nothing.
And it's boring. Like I mean, I think they don't do crazy dunks. They just do
Yeah,
jump over people.
like I'm a Celtics hater, but like
Me
what
too.
they Jaylen Brown, like they literally were.
Yeah.
I
I don't
think
get
they
it.
like. Here's my theory. Like in my opinion, I think they were trying to give him a higher score so they could motivate the All Stars. Like, hey, Jaylen Brown's doing it and he's winning it. Let's go back and do that.
Uh
I literally think that is why they were raising his score because I think Jaquez or Jacob Toppin, both of them were better than Brown. But I think they
definitely
were doing
Toppin.
that, definitely top. But I think they were doing that. I
Yeah.
think the dunk contest was rigged, quite frankly. Like I don't like to call things rigged, but it was pretty clear that the NBA was trying to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it also like I feel like just as a fan looking into the NBA, there's no way those are the best dunks Jaylen Brown could do. There's
No.
just no way.
Mm-mm.
And I don't know how they're gonna fix that. Maybe, yeah, I really don't know how they could fix the dunk contest.
There's just not like the whole All-Star weekend's messed up and the league better figure that out. But let's end the day on a good thing, which was the in-season tournament. I thought the in-season tournament was just flat out stupid because I thought it was just what's the point of getting a trophy in the regular season? Like that's just completely stupid. You're playing for one thing, and that's the Larry O'Brien Trophy. But it it really was competitive. These guys were trying, and it just felt like the vibe.
Yeah,
The in-season tournament games just meant a little bit more for those teams.
it was fun. It was fun to break them off in like different divisions than they were in and play against different teams. It was very cool to see.
It made the regular season like intriguing because
Hmm
you've got like December, you've got like Christmas, February, you've got like the All Star,
And
you've
I mean,
got
and the in season games were spread out. It wasn't
yeah,
just
and they're spread out, yeah, and then
yeah,
it was every Tuesday and Friday, and then like there was just really from like October to late November, there was just really nothing like intriguing to think about in the regular season. But this in-season tournament, like really interesting because it was like anybody can win. Like we saw the
yeah,
Pacers, even though they've had a decent season, the Pacers made it all the way to the in-season tournament championship, and the Lakers, they're the 10th seed in the West, they made
yeah,
it they won.
yeah. They won. I mean, in a way, it's a little bit weird just because it doesn't mean anything in the end of when you look back at the NBA
Yeah,
season. But it's very good for fans and players, and it's
yeah,
just a lot more
and
competitive.
I like the neutral court aspect of it. I think that quite frankly, the one thing I would probably say I don't like was the Lakers like popping champagne and celebrate. Like I don't
Yeah,
like they were winning the championship because
yeah.
they
I mean,
it's not
and then they went on to barely make the play-in.
Yeah.
So
So like that to me was stupid. But like other than that, it was really, really fun to track and really, really fun to watch. And it's like you've got two teams that are 3-0 and they're playing each other on the last game and it's to
yeah,
win the group.
very
And it's
fun.
like, oh, it's competitive. Like, oh, this is the game to watch. Like these games just meant a lot more. I hated the court. I hated the
Yeah,
courts.
I
I
don't.
didn't like
Why
the
did they do
courts.
that? I don't know. I don't. What it didn't look
Yeah,
good.
no, the courts to me
Just
were just flat out stupid. But I like it was just really interesting. I really liked how the format was played out, and quite frankly, the one thing I would probably say I would change is the knockout rounds, like the first set of games, like the quarterfinals. I would also put that neutral. I wouldn't put that on a court because essentially you're giving a team an extra home game. You might as well just make the game neutral.
yeah. I mean, it's also like playoff atmospheres. So
Yeah. I mean,
I
it
think
is
that's why they
playoff
kept it.
atmosphere, but it's like if you've got teams that are 4-0, but like you've got three teams that are 4-0 in group play, and you've got a 3 playing a 2. How is that fair? That the 3
Yeah,
who's also
yeah,
4-0, like there's just not really a tiebreaker scenarios.
yeah. Because it shouldn't be
I
based
don't
on
even
point
remember. I don't
differential
even
or point
remember how
scored.
they.
I think it was
Yeah,
point
like yeah, the
scored,
point
something like that.
differential was interesting because
Yeah, because
that
people
you
they had to win and lose by certain
Yeah,
amounts.
that you brought that up because like the Celtics who lost to the Magic and they were playing Chicago in their last in-season tournament game, they had to win by a certain amount to win the group. It wasn't like they just had to win the game. That made it a little bit intriguing, but it was also the other side of it with your Chicago and this team's just running you out the door like when the game's over. Like
Yeah,
it
I mean
was
it's just not.
intriguing.
It's not sport. There's no sportsmanship, but at the same
Yeah,
time,
there's
you
no
had. It's like it's
sportsmanship, but
understanding
it's
on both
intriguing.
sides. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you have to do that to be where you want to be in the playing tournament
Yeah, I just didn't understand like the tiebreakers,
or the
not for the
in-season tournament.
groups, but for the knockout, right? Like for the quarter, like the group winners and the. I didn't really understand that, but I think all of those
Yeah,
should have been on neutral. But I like the format. I think the
but
format's good.
the other thing I'm is it the same divisions for next year? Or are they going to switch it up again?
No, I think how it is the top you have in each group you have a 1 through 3 seed, a 4 through 6 seed, 7 through 9, 10 through 12, 13 through 15. You have one of each in a
And it's
group,
just
and it's
every
just
year it's
random.
different.
It's just random. Every year
Oh,
is different, which
that
is
is
cool.
fun. Yeah,
That's cool because like you, but like here's my opinion. Like if I mean the groups are cool, but what's the point? Like maybe they should have made the groups the divisions because like what's the divisions are
yeah.
basically
Honestly,
useless in the
yeah. There's no
NBA.
point because
There's
in
literally no
MLB,
point. You
NFL, as it
back
matters.
yeah back then in like the 2000 like back then it used to be like if you won your division you got a top 3 seed, but the divisions are useless now. Like they don't mean anything. So maybe if you made those the groups for the tournament,
Well, if
it
they
would have
add two
been
teams, like you said they would, divisions are going to be gone anyway.
yeah. Like I think they should just. There's no point in having them. The only thing they do is guarantee you play that team 4 times every year
Yeah.
compared to you may alternate with other teams in the conference. But other than
Hmm.
like the divisions are useless. So if they would have made that the groups, I thought that like that's the I thought that but like at the same point when you look at a division like the Southeast where you got Orlando, Miami, Atlanta, Charlotte, Washington, I mean, you've got it mostly was Miami dominating the division, but obviously Orlando's on the
Yeah.
rise, and Atlanta had a year or two there, but like it's like a division
Uh,
like that.
yeah. No, it's
He's
true.
he's a fan. He's a fan of Atlanta, so
Yeah. So,
I'm just trying to diss Atlanta, but
I mean, who knows? I mean, that's the other thing I like about going back to the play-in. I mean, it's fun for fans to be able to believe that they have still have a chance to win the
yeah,
national. It's like March Madness. Like a bunch of
yeah, they
teams
have
have
a
a chance.
yeah, they have a chance, but
Yeah.
I mean.
Because
The
it's
in season,
basketball. You could play.
yeah,
You could
it's
anyone
basketball.
could win anything.
It's basketball. But
So yeah,
I mean, we haven't seen a 10 seed even come out of the play-in yet. This could be the year though. This could be the year for that to happen.
yeah.
Nah,
Oh, you're talking about the
I'm
West.
talking about
Yeah,
the
you're talking about
West.
the West.
I'm not talking about the East.
Well, for the East too.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Hawks. They were the 9 last year and made it out. So
Yeah. No, they were the 8. They were the 8 because they played Miami in the first playing game. They were the 8. Toronto was the 9, and Chicago was the 10. Chicago beat Toronto.
Wait, but the Hawks?
The Hawks were the 8. They played at Miami, and then they got the 7 because Boston was the 2. Because
Oh
remember,
no, I'm thinking of 2 years ago when they had to win
2 years
at
ago.
they had to win
No, at Cleveland. They were
Cleveland.
the 9. Yes.
Yeah.
20. Yeah, and then they lost to Miami in 5. But
Yeah, they did. Oh, they did.
But they did. But I mean, the in-season tournament was great. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole season was great. Even like going back to the play-in, even though that wasn't specifically this season, the play-in has been great.
Yeah,
Even though
both
I'm
great
not the
additions for the NBA.
even though I'm not the biggest fan of the in-season. I mean, the play-in, it's still been great for the league. I personally liked the play-in when it was in the bubble, where it's like you've got to earn that spot because because you're out of the you shouldn't even be in there. So I thought it should have been if the 9 seed was close enough. The 9 seed's got to go to the 8 seed, and they got to beat the 8 seed twice on the 8 seed's home court. Because if you're not in the playoffs, I think you should be at a major disadvantage where it's like, oh, if you're the 9-10, you still got to win 2 games. But if you're the 9 seed, you still get to host a game. And then the 7, because and you look at the 7 seed, I mean, sometimes the 7 seed has a bigger gap with the 8 seed. So you could have the 8 seed just have a 1 game. Even though Atlanta did win against Miami last year, I'll give them credit for that. I mean, last year Miami was a whole 6 games.
Yeah, I mean, this year
it's not fair.
It's not fair for Atlanta and Chicago to have a chance. It's just not. Yeah, they shouldn't
have a chance. But last year, Atlanta was 6 games behind Miami. Even though they did, you got to give credit, they beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Miami was so far ahead, but yet Atlanta still had the opportunity to jump a whole 6 games ahead of them in 1 game.
I mean,
that's the mess. I would have liked it if the 9 seeds within 3 games. You've got to go to the 8 seed, and you've got to beat the 8 seed twice.
Or just winning a certain amount of games, because you can't win 36 games and make the playoffs.
There shouldn't. I think there shouldn't be, but it's you can't really evolve the play-in each year. I think you need to have a specific format. And I mean, this format's not terrible.
I mean, they're still testing it out too.
I mean, yeah, but I liked the way they did it in the bubble, where Portland, Memphis, even though it wasn't really road games because it was the bubble, Memphis still had to beat Portland twice in order to jump.
Yeah. But yeah. So, I mean, but overall, in season and play-in, I think are 2 good additions for the NBA, especially with
definitely really good
in a bad direction. I think they needed these 2 things to just keep the NBA afloat.
Absolutely. And I think that's it for today, man. I think we talked about a lot of good surprises, a lot of good disappointments, some other stuff in there. And thank you so much for watching the show. Thank you, Max, again
thanks for having me, Josh.
Joining the show. And remember, please follow us on Spotify, like and subscribe on YouTube, and tell me how you would have taken your shot on these takes. That's all my shots for the week. See you next time where we start the postseason. Super excited for that.